Hello and welcome to Enlightened Conversations. Today our guest is Miss Rebekah Kane from Tell a New Story Coaching, who is a life coach and actually founder of Tell a New Story Coaching. Miss Rebekah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Kushan.
I just actually wanted to ask you, so how did Tell a New Story come about?
Yeah, it's a great story. It's a great story. I actually came up with the name before I even became certified as a life and leadership coach. And I think it came about, I'll share a little bit about the name because I think that definitely bridges to, again, how I came about to be doing this work and starting my own coaching business. So I come from a career of teaching and training and always having this direct service element, working with people to empower them. You know, as an educator, that's what I feel our role is to empower people in many different ways to lead their life. And with education, you gain, a personal power. So I believe in stories and that we make meaning of life from stories. I'm a big, voracious reader. I call myself a writer. I haven't published yet, but I will. But I love to write. So, and I love meeting people, and I love hearing their stories. And I'm sure you can relate to this too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Because that's so much of what you do. And I just knew that idea of telling a new story really resonated with me because as I became a coach, it was truly believing and then coaching people in this way of we have the power of changing the stories we tell ourselves. So we often get stuck in certain patterns and beliefs and so forth, but the only thing we can change and we have power to control is our thoughts and our behaviors and our actions. And so through that shifting of a belief about ourselves, the world, the other, we are ultimately telling a new story, opening up a new chapter. So my business came about because of my choice to go on this path of becoming certified as a life coach. And it really is because of my own journey and experiences. So I have had a very non-linear path, I call it, of my career path. Spent a lot of time in the classroom, had the beauty and rich experience of working with so many diverse populations. So when I say diverse, students and families of a range of socioeconomic backgrounds, a range of racial, cultural, linguistic backgrounds, and so I went with this desire to do more work outside of the classroom. Went back to school, to grad school, and got a degree in intercultural training and relations, and wanted to really do a lot of work to bridge cultures, to bridge people of different backgrounds, to have this opportunity to really, be able to look at how we, and unfortunately as we see now in the world, how we can come together and we can, break past these stereotypes and fears and biases and so forth.
Very, very crucial.
Yeah, so ultimately, I through my journey, worked in nonprofit, did a little bit in corporate, have taught international students, international professionals, and through my work, particularly doing some career coaching and job search training for immigrant professionals, started to hear their stories and just the reality of not only the cultural transition, but this whole process of getting back into your career and the pain that exists through a job or career search transition, and how we again make meaning and identify so much with the work that we do in the world. And so through that experience and then having my own experience of career transition, involuntary ending of my job, it was this sense of now I have to take all of this, coaching and mentoring and advising that I was giving to other people and give it to myself. And through that journey, which really was a long soul searching and lots of networking and volunteering and geographic moves and transitions, I really discovered that, my God, there's no way I could have made it through all this without my support system. The support of friends and family and previous coworkers and community, and I also sought out the support of a coach. And so that kind of, at that place in my life, that was just several years ago, I knew something was shifting where it was like, I am meant to take this experience, not only all of my experiences in educating and empowering people and working with all these different populations, but my own experience of going through this really roller coaster of, almost a couple of years, year and a half, to, in some ways, this is part of my purpose, is to help make this easier on other people. And I just believe so much in empowering others through support, and we all can't do anything without having other people to lift us up and support us. So really, my decision to move more specifically into coaching work is because of my own story, and I feel that I can bring not only my coaching skills and my experience going through the program, of course, but all these experiences that I've had to be able to really relate and help people create what they want and move through the really sticky points, as I call them, the yucky, icky, sticky points in life, because we're always going to have them.
Always.
So.
And I mean, it's just from hearing you talk, there's so many things that I wanted to speak on. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on is you spoke about diversity when you actually have a very diverse background of growing up, because you lived in New England and you also lived in California, correct?
I did, yeah.
So how was that growing up for you? Like, was it insightful? Do you feel like that actually helped you to even be a better coach, in your opinion?
Sure. So I spent actually, my whole life up until the age of 33 in New England. So it was, as an adult, I went out to the West Coast, which definitely was a life changer too. But to respond to your question about those diverse geographic experiences impacting me, when I have made geographic moves, it has been at a time where I think I truly needed to have internal growth. In other words, I've noticed about myself that my soul has kind of called for, some points in life, it was like, you need big change, and those external changes actually allowed me to grow in ways that I probably wouldn't have even anticipated they would. And by that, I mean I think the taking yourself out of a comfort zone, a familiar area, is both exciting and presents its own challenges, because you're starting new, you're starting fresh. And for me, there's been something exciting about that, and I think I'm fortunately quite skilled at building community. So I've had the really beautiful support of finding amazing people wherever I go.
Wow.
And building these. So I have multiple support networks, but they happen to be all over the country, which is really hard because I want them all in one place. You want them all
together. I know.
But so I think it has, again, back to your question, it has definitely informed who I am, the work that I do, and has allowed me to become that much more adaptable, resilient, and understand transitions in another way. I can't relate to being, I can't fully relate to being someone from another culture, picking up and moving for whatever reason, whether by choice or not by choice, and coming to the U.S. because I haven't experienced that. Yet I've experienced these transitions where I've gone into different subcultures and I've left what is known and familiar and started over. So I guess in some way I feel that sense of my own starting over, plopping myself in a new part of the country, rebuilding, has allowed me to have also this perspective in how to help people who are going through not only the individuals coming from another culture, but just going through big changes.
In general. Wow.
Hopefully that answered your question about the diverse experiences.
It does. And I mean, so you're in Chicago now, and I believe we were talking before and you said that you were planning on even moving again. So do you plan on moving again, or are you in Chicago for some time?
Just a gypsy nomad. No, I'm really not. I've been here in Chicago 5 years. I lived in the West Coast several years. I lived in the Boston area several years, particularly, and then coming from southern Maine. I like Chicago, and I think the only thing that would kind of cause another geographic move would be perhaps at some point, later down the line, getting back to the East Coast.
Okay.
To family and friends there, kind of, my roots. There's a really nostalgic heart, centered pull there, because I have dear, friends and family, and it's a beautiful place to have grown up. But it's always going to be there.
Right,
so, I still have some
that connection,
desire to kind of be in the bigger, diverse cities like Chicago is, and I do miss the West Coast, and maybe eventually a bi-coastal life would be nice.
It would be. Everybody wants that. Well, maybe not everybody, but I know it would be nice for me.
Right. But,
And I actually wanted to ask you about teaching, because you were teaching, and I feel like even as a teacher you can also be a coach, just for younger people. It won't be necessarily for adults, but I feel like you're developing kids, and you're their coach and you're their guide. So with being a teacher versus being a coach, what was it that made you say, you know what, I want to change? Or was it kind of like, I want to see the impact that I'm having?
That's a great question. I hear a few questions in there, so and as I'm listening to you ask that question, Kwashan, I'm feeling as if what really happened is I went from teaching inside and outside the classroom in all the different roles I had, and you're absolutely right that embedded within that role of teacher is a coaching. I think to be an effective teacher, you have to have those coaching skills kind of inherently, along with many other hats that you wear. Right. And I love teaching. And I think what happened is that as I got older and I had experiences working with both older students, high school. I taught high school a little bit.
Okay.
And then working with adults of all ages, young adults from just recently out of college, early career to in their 60s. I discovered how much I enjoyed working with that population. And so what happened over time was, I guess, this natural shift of now the coaching seemed so appealing because I could focus in with people who were choosing to be open to that.
Okay.
And I guess in the sense that, a teacher's challenge is to open up the minds of every student in your classroom, no matter how of what age, but that that's challenging. And teaching in the public school classroom has changed so much, and I have so many dear friends who are teachers, and it's tough. It's become really challenging, and I think for me, I needed to kind of either take a break, or shift my skills and experiences in a different way. So I think what's happening now is that my coaching still has a thread of teaching.
Okay.
So it went from teaching being the bigger bubble with the element of coaching in there to now
reversal.
Yeah.
And that actually just brings us to another lane, because in a sense that kind of correlates with your non-conformity lifestyle. You didn't really like to conform, and I feel like with teaching, you have a curriculum that you have to follow, you have guidelines, but now you're a founder of your own coaching establishment, so you kind of have your own guidelines and parameters, and you can do things the way you want, but you can still teach. It's just how you want to teach.
You're right on. You are so on.
So I feel like that's pretty interesting that you actually embraced that and you went that route. And then I also wanted to talk about your blog and how you're writing now. And I read in your blog that you love to dance.
I do love to dance.
So how does writing and how does dancing make you feel?
You have such great questions.
Thank you.
So they both definitely are, to me, forms of creative self-expression, and but both very different for me personally. So dancing makes me feel joyful and free, and just so grateful to be in this body that is able-bodied and can move and dance. Alive. I feel really alive, and it just, and happy. Just makes me smile.
Right, you're already smiling just talking about it.
I was just sharing with a friend last night, actually, this concept of like, why don't we all dance more? Why don't we have like regular,
dance
places
time.
to go? Dance breaks, or maybe I'll start it one day. But I will put the plug in for this really cool organization, though, that started a few years back called Daybreaker, and they do morning dance parties.
Okay, wow.
Which is a really cool thing.
Daybreaker.
If anybody wants to learn about that, they can look them up. They are in Chicago, too.
Just a little plug.
Yeah, I am totally happy to support them. I think it's a great concept because it is about bringing more joy.
It is.
And into your life, but then there's this beautiful sense of community. I think when you're there's a collective group of people dancing, whether you know each other or not. And writing to me, I think, has always been really cathartic. So for years I've been a journal writer, and journal writing always, even as a teen, journal writing was always this space to really process. And I'm very process oriented, and that's how I learn often is through talking, through writing, to kind of express, whatever's going on. And I believe in the power of writing, whether it's release or it's in a form of clarifying and writing our goals down. And so for me, writing with a pen as opposed to typing is also something that does bring me, I think, different feelings, peace, centeredness, and empowerment, because here I am taking my thoughts, my words, and expressing myself on paper, and then when you take the step to put it out there and share, with the hope that what you've written is also going to resonate with even just maybe one or two people, that it may make them feel just like, whether it's less alone or connected or inspired, there's that sense of I feel like hopefully I can share and help impact positively through that channel.
And I feel like it may just be, and this is just my opinion, but just us as humans in general, I feel like, we want that sense of connection, whether it be with other people on the things that we like or the things that we don't like. I just feel like that there's a sense of community that's just ingrained in us. You know, when you look at social media and you look at the reason why social media is prevalent today is just because it's there to grow connections. And I also wanted to talk about connections as far as you, just because you said, you know, you've been around great people everywhere you went. So do you feel like great people and positive people is just something that you attract because you're positive and you just tend to gravitate more towards those people, or you've come into contact with negative people and you just kind of stray away?
I think I see both in my choices that I make around who I spend time with, and that in itself I think can be quite empowering. You know, to be really conscious of the energy that we're experiencing in the company of people we spend time with. And so I do believe that I do believe in the concept that we attract in what we project and put out there.
Okay.
I think I would describe myself as a very relationship-oriented person, and that relationships are the most important element in my life. And community and connection, extremely important, high on my list of values. And so in that respect, I feel like I do put effort into nurturing relationships, and so by that token, feel like that, you know, there's a flow there of give and take and appreciation, and you know, in those relationships, and I would like to believe I've attracted in, you know, these also positive thinking, you know, energetic beings into my, you know, networks and community. Mm-hmm. And then that choice though around negative energy, we all carry both, you know, we all have our output of negativity, you know, and that's also how, you know, we try to express or connect with people or, you know, release. I think it's what we choose to do with that negative energy, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then there is also the unfortunate circumstance of coming across individuals who are perhaps really stuck, who actually have what some people may describe as that sense of toxicity because they are so embedded in their circumstance or the negative, you know, feelings.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost drowning in that. And
so what would you recommend to those people?
Don't know, right? It's that maybe it's like I don't, you know, how do I shift that? You know, one thought that comes to mind is coming back to what do we want to feel ultimately? What do we want to feel and experience?
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps trying to remember what is it that makes me have that feeling. You know, we were talking earlier about, you know, my love of dancing, and I do it because of how it makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to get in touch with that, but to also find that support mm-hmm. in a positive way, and that may not always be easy and accessible for everybody. I think one other thought that comes to mind is how can we take ourselves outside of our own mind, remove ourselves from, which really is impossible to do completely, but in that sense, to me it's about how can we become more focused on giving or thinking about the other to kind of release that hold of we are so stuck, I can't think about anything but myself right now because I'm in such pain and such suffering. Mm-hmm. And this is a real, true experience for a lot of us, or will be at some point in our lives. So how can I, in some way, shape, or form, help somebody else?
Wow.
You know, so that's why when people are job searching, career searching, I highly recommend find a way to volunteer. Find a way, and do something that you enjoy
Mm-hmm.
as a way to give back,
Right.
because your focus is then outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Not only gives you a break, but how cool is it to experience helping and
Someone
contributing to someone else's life.
That is really great. I also wanted to ask real quick, because as you said, you've moved a lot, and so I was just genuinely interested, and this is not a dating plug, but I just wanted to ask you, are you married and do you have kids, or are you single?
We're not on a dating show? No.
Sorry, that information is not relevant.
I am so teasing. I am single. I'm not married, and no kids. And I definitely aspire to have a family, build a family. Yeah.
Okay, so you've been able to, get your traveling on and maybe see the world. So, do you feel like it would have been better to do that with a family, or do you think that for you, your journey, it's best that you did do that while you were single without a family, and you were able to gain those experiences without a family?
You're full of good questions. I think that my journey has been such that it has, because I have learned and grown tremendously, learned so much about myself through all of these transitions and exploring and travels, and that I needed to do that before I build and create with someone else. So yeah, I don't think that would have happened had I started years earlier. Or who knows? It would have probably not given me the space to have this learning experience that I've had.
And I feel like you do have a sound foundation. So I feel like, now that you've experienced everything that you experienced, now it's like, okay, I'm ready. And I wanted to say thank you so much for joining me, Miss
Thank you,
Rebekah.
Prashant.
I really enjoyed our talk.
I enjoyed it tremendously. Thank you so much.